Welcome everyone to the Wellness Masterclass entitled Clodagh, up close and very personal with the remarkable Clodagh. I'm Nancy Davis, Chief Creative Officer and Executive Director of both the Global Wellness Summit and Global Wellness Institute, and I'll be your host for today's call. I want to thank our sponsor for this Wellness Masterclass, Pegasus Capital Advisors. Pegasus is represented today by Craig Kogut, founder, chairman, and CEO. Pegasus is a pioneer in private equity investing in sustainability and health. Craig and Clodagh share a deep mutual love for each other, and I'll ask Craig to comment on that shortly. This is the first year we are having our virtual event sponsored, and as long as we have companies like Pegasus stepping up, we will continue to offer these events without cost. Before introducing Clodagh, I want to introduce Susie Ellis, Chair and CEO of both the Global Wellness Summit and Global Wellness Institute. Susie has known Clodagh a long time and is a huge fan. Susie?
Thank you, Nancy. It is such a treat to have Clodagh with us today. Thank you, Clodagh, for being the focus of this Wellness Masterclass. As Nancy said, we have known each other a long time, and I was thinking just how long that has been. But I've been an admirer of your work, your books, and you as a person. And I do remember, even though we knew each other before this, when we engaged you to do our Spa Finder lobby in Manhattan. That was when we first came there, which was around 2001. And we ended up loving the space. We did a lot of entertaining in the space, and maybe even some people on the call remember it. It had a great feel. You've always been a visionary. You've done projects all over the world. So I am looking forward, as I'm sure the audience is, to know what you're passionate about now and what you see for the future. So Clodagh, thank you so much. And Nancy, thank you for arranging for Clodagh to be here.
Thanks, Susie. Also on this call are the members of our team, Michelle Gamble, Beatrice Hochegger, who you've all met and who's going to keep you muted, and others. We have the best team in the world. Quick refresher on Zoom, mostly we don't really need it. Beatrice will keep everyone muted throughout this call, just to eliminate all the background noise. You can choose to see this call in the speaker view or the gallery view and make that choice at the top right of the Zoom window. And please continue to use the chat function. Let us know where you're calling from, name of your company if you want, any question you might have. We are recording this call, and we will be sharing the link to the recording as well as the chat. We share the chat, it has a lot of interesting information, and you'll get a follow-up email later today with all of that. James Joyce wrote, "I am tomorrow or some future day what I established today. I am today what I established yesterday or some previous day." This renowned Irishman might have been writing about his fellow Irish artist, our guest today, Clodagh, whose lifelong body of work and extraordinary talents have made her one of the most sought after designers in the world. One of the greatest gifts of my work is getting to know people like Clodagh. Clodagh is someone known only by her first name. Oprah, Cher, Clodagh. All women of strength and purpose, all legends. Whether you are building a spa, a hotel, private residences, reimagining destinations, the only word you need to utter is Clodagh. This immediately evokes an elegant palette, a finely honed design aesthetic, and a fierce commitment to the well-being of people and the planet. It also evokes a larger-than-life personality with the talent to match, and a wicked sense of humor, and a great head of hair. Clodagh is an Irish name, and it was first the name of a river, later a saint. Perfect. Clodagh's life, like a river, is a long, winding flow, and she moves through it with grace and determination. She has made life her art form, with well-being her North Star, staying true to her convictions and leaving us all breathless when we enter the spaces she has created. Maybe because she has created them with us in mind, and we are amazed at how well she knows us. Aristotle wrote, "The aim of art is to represent not the outward appearance of things, but their inward significance." Clodagh does both. She presents to us a beautiful view of the world, but the secret to that gorgeous exterior is an inner life of the design, the space itself, furnishings, floorings, art on the walls, lighting, every detail thoughtfully imagined and executed and alive. Clodagh's work is informed by her global experiences and the way in which she absorbs what she sees and what she learns, and she never stops learning. Emile Zola wrote, "The artist is nothing without the gift, but the gift is nothing without work." No one works harder than Clodagh, so much so that she made me a nervous wreck by traveling out of the country over this weekend to view the site of a new project, arriving home late last night. She is a world-renowned designer, photographer, art consultant, philanthropist, wife, mother, grandmother, mentor, and friend. The very last meeting I had in person before the lockdown was with Clodagh on March 10th, 2020. And while I wish we were all in a room together today, I could not be happier that she's agreed to spend an hour with us now. The one and only Clodagh. Please unmute yourself, Clodagh, and say hello. The bottom left, there you are.
Yeah. Well, you know, I really would quite like to meet this person called Clodagh. There's such nice things about her.
She's kind of amazing, right?
Interesting, yeah.
You know, Clodagh, the title of this masterclass indicates that we're going to learn something personal about you. What's the most important thing you want us to know about you?
That I care.
Care about?
That I care. That I care about everything I do. No matter how large or how small or what remote corner of a closet, I care. I want to make everything as good as I possibly can. And I'm going to tell you something. My husband, I said in front of my husband. Somebody asked me what my character is. And I said, a sensitive army tank. He looked down and he said, not always that sensitive. That would describe the way I approach life.
Well, I think that's absolutely wonderful. And next time we'll have your husband on to get a little bit more information.
No way.
Clodagh's prepared a wonderful presentation to share with us in a minute. But before she does that, I'm just going to ask Craig Kogut to take 1 minute, because I know he's got a little bit less time this morning, and tell us now what you love about Clodagh.
Well, Nancy, there's so much to say. She is a miracle worker. I see my friend Neil Jacobs, who's on the Zoom as well. I saw Clodagh with that passion, the vision, the bringing us back to nature, with all her spiritual thoughts, take something I didn't think was possible and do it, and create one of the most wonderful projects I've ever seen in Portugal. And she's done it other places. And she's true to everything she says, with the passion that's just her. So that's, I'm excited to hear from Clodagh. So thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you,
and
Craig.
thanks for being part of this. Okay, Clodagh, why don't you share your presentation so we can take a look at what you've been up to?
First, I'd like to say one thing. The Spanish have a saying, since we're quoting, tell me who you walk with and I will tell you who you are. All you people, all my team, all these wonderful people have put all this together. I am not working alone. So we focus on wellness. And by the way, the reason I have just one name, Clodagh, is because when I sat for my exam, my school leaving exam, I've never been to college, they called my entire name out, Clodagh Fanula Maeve Distillery Phipps. And I was so embarrassed, I nearly went under the desk. And only use one name ever again. No. So that's what made that happen. Next, Beatrice. So this, as I say, would describe who I am. Always challenging everything. The youngest child, brought up in the west of Ireland, originally in Oscar Wilde's country home. And I'm practically a quote book of his quotes. Next slide. So this is my background. It's it was environmental. The word environmental only came into use relatively recently, but we lived environmentally. We had compost heaps. No chemicals were allowed in the garden. We lived environmentally without a word for it. It was just the way we did things. Next image. What changed my life radically, since my father had wanted me to be a professor of classics and mathematics, oddly enough, in which I excelled, was a black horse. We were cantering around the field. I'd just come back from boarding school, and he took off bucking, threw the saddle off with me on it, and I broke my back in 3 places. Now on my back nearly 9 months. That was a life changer for me, because I realized how fragile. Next image. I felt it's life is very delicate. It's you know, the life death thing is so delicate. So it made me very aware, and I didn't want to go to be classics and mathematics. And I decided when I was lying on my back that I would be a fashion designer. Don't know where that came from somewhere. So I bite off more than you can chew and chew like hell. Man, did I chew. I started my first business when I was 17. Next image. In Dublin, Ireland. I had a townhouse where I had my seamsters, and I got licensees very quickly, got a lot of publicity, exported all over the world. And this is my really up close and personal, right? Next slide, please. So I was traveling madly, and I had 3 beautiful children, but marriage wasn't going well, and that also spurred me to change husbands, countries, and careers and go to live in Spain, which is where I started what I'm doing now. I was lucky enough to find an environmental architect from the University of Liverpool, and I started working with her as a team. I was the one who brought the lifestyle and the living and the landscaping, and she was the one who brought in the air movement and the environmentalism. I learned a lot. So 7 years I worked in Spain, working all over the country there. Again, with no previous knowledge, but always finding and hiring people that are better than myself. That's my motto. Look for people who know more and are better than yourself. And then I came, next slide. Well, you know where I came to. I'm still here. I've traveled in over 120 countries. I have competition with my husband because he's done 130, so I'm working on it. And this is where I established my business. And I've been working all over the world ever since. Work flows into me, I think, basically because we have a great team. It's not just me, never is. Next image. Was that the last? And there's a family issue too. We have a lovely family. Next image. Children and grandchildren. A house in Ireland where my son has, a beautiful house in Ireland where we go to stay. Beautiful beach, rolling waves, earth, fire, water, wood, metal, all the elements, all the senses. We address them all the time. Next image. That about sums it up. I was driving in Winwood and I came against this stop sign. I thought, aha, that sums it up. No. Next image. So this is some work we're working on right now. And a lot of you, I'm sure, are familiar with our past work, but this is work in the Caribbean, a hotel and spa. Again, focusing on all the elements, addressing all the senses, and really caring for the guest experience and the transitions. Next image. We love using massive living walls and with water flowing through them, because it's so calming to the spirit. You come off a long flight when this place is finally built. It's going to be, walk into the lobby and it's going to give you a hug, and you've got a view straight out to sea. The lights move very gently. You know, when you walk into a lobby at night and it's and there's no movement, we provided a little movement on the water, so the lobby becomes alive. Because sound actually furnishes a room, and so does scent. All the senses are addressed to provoke good or bad emotions, by the way. Next slide. And this is a little hotel, DuPont Circle in Washington, where we'll also take a job that's not ground up and do hair and makeup and breathe in all the life that we feel that the place should have. Again, you have the fire. It's a small conference room, sitting room. Next project, next slide, please. And we love to use solid wood panels for the back of the bed, because it's we believe in sleep, and we believe in promoting sleep, and the bed is one of the most, of course, important pieces of furniture in any home. The bed and the kitchen. Next image. And that about sums me up. I was brought up partially in his house, Oscar Wilde's. I just want the best. And that doesn't matter what the budget is. If I was wearing a t-shirt on the site yesterday with lots of talk about project and the budget, I would be wearing a t-shirt that said cost effectively stunning. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to provide for people. And I think that's it for images. No, it's not actually. The Washington, the crossing, about 400 apartments. It's a place where what we do is we bring the lobbies alive in multifamily buildings, so that it's upsizing instead of downsizing. When you sell your big house and go into one of our buildings, you have all the amenities in the world that are carefully curated to take care of you. Next image. Like a pool, a sauna, a spa, infrared sauna, places where you can be well, places where you can set up a massage bed and be quiet. Next image. And a lot of people say no to me, but behind every no, there's a yes somewhere. That's one of my quotes. I try for it. Next image. That's it. I think.
That was absolutely beautiful, beautiful.
Oh dear, what's she going to ask me?
I am going to ask you how you have stayed so relevant all of these years in all of these different ebbs and flows of different things you have done.
Well, I walk on the same path. I want to enhance the life of human beings, because I think it can be very tough, and I want to create spaces that support everything that they do. So, and I'm also a chameleon, so I can do that in the Caribbean or India or downtown Manhattan. It's still the same sense of senses, emotions wrapped up in every small body that we have. In the air yesterday, I was thinking how tiny we are really in the greater scheme of things, and how big we feel.
You know, Clodagh, wellness, well-being, it is at the center, at the very core of the work that you do. Can you tell us a little bit about the modalities that are in play for you? I think you call it your toolbox.
That's exactly what I call it, and that's what it is. We know we have a checklist on every project. Have we addressed, for instance, Chroma Therapy? So, because in feng shui, the colors, there should be a small representation of all the colors so people feel comfortable, but we can also go monochromatic and do that. Of course, biophilia, which is kind of the word of the day, you know, but being brought up in the country in Ireland, I've always, like water, I flow on a project inside and out. Even if, although I have not been invited to be the landscape designer, I will glom onto the landscape designer and try to create outdoor rooms and spaces where people can be very cozy in the middle of a vast green space. In the toolbox, there are so many things. I could go on forever, but there is a toolbox and there's a list of about 80 things that we address on every project.
And do you find, I should ask Neil Jacobs, who is on the call and with whom you have worked on a number of projects. Neil Jacobs, CEO of Six Senses. What's it like to work with Clodagh?
Uh-oh.
Well, we go back a long time, too many years, and actually, she and I were speaking earlier today, and we had talked about, we were looking at a project in Morocco together, and we had talked about how Clodagh was in fact the first person that really became involved with Six Senses right after Craig's acquisition of Six Senses, and we went to Clodagh way back and said, help us reimagine what Six Senses is going to be like in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, and so on. And so that initial body of work really came from Clodagh and her team and us sitting around drinking lots of coffee over many hours. And it was really a definitive document that was created that kind of set the tone for what we were going to do. As Craig pointed out, the first Six Senses Clodagh actually designed was the Douro Valley Six Senses in Portugal, which where she really took a building that everybody said to me we were crazy to get involved with. When we took it over, it had been designed to look like Bali. And, there was Clodagh going through every store in Porto and in Lisbon, looking for ceramic tile, looking for just all kinds of things to bring this extraordinary building to life in the right context. So long answer, but it's just a very heartwarming experience to spend time with her professionally, and to see the magic that gets created. Personally, it's a whole other story. Personally, professionally, that's how it is. Right?
Neil, thank you so much. And sorry, I always put you on the spot when you're on the call, but you have such a long history with Clodagh and with doing this. Clodagh, when you are approaching a project, and like Portugal, and I've heard this story before, that you went to bring it back to life, to bring the life and the culture of the place into the space. Can you tell us a little bit about that process for you?
Well, the first thing we try to do, and we usually get our way because of the army tank thing, is that we get in a car and we go around the country so we can pick up the context. And we call this dry sponge, wet sponge. We flew to Portugal, dry sponge, and we were very wet sponges by the time we'd done ours of going to small villages, meeting the village baker, going in the backs of tile factories and finding broken tiles that we afterwards assembled in a wall in the dining room. We go into every dusty corner. We go into and actually I have a passion for junkyards. I'm always finding nice things there. When I landed in the airport first in Porto, actually, I saw that it was a stone yard, and I went to the stone yard and they had some old tools there. And I thought, aha, Louise Nevelson. And we have one huge 8x4 piece in the wine tasting room, which is composed of all the old tools sunk into a concrete block. So we're like water, we flow everywhere, and my team loves it. We try to eat.
You are the river. You really are the river.
Yeah. So it's and also if you're designing, it's good to know where you are, particularly in a hotel. You don't want to wake up and look around and say, where am I? We want you to know you're in Portugal when you're in the Douro Valley.
Can you share with us what you're working on these days? First of all, I know that 2020 was a very strange year for everyone, and you and I have talked, and there was an impact for sure on things that you were doing. And then all of a sudden, I think things opened up again. Maybe tell us a little bit about that and bring us up to date on what's on your plate now.
Some I can talk about, some I can't. You know,
Okay.
like yesterday's flight is probably going to be one of the more exciting projects I've ever done. We're bringing out a new collection of outdoor furniture. I have a packed my whole camera. I have photographs I've taken in the year of COVID that I'm getting an exhibition for sometime late fall, maybe when the gallery opens. We've just worked on a medical marijuana shop on 58th Street. No, and it's very successful. And it's very interesting to actually, as a study, to see people coming in that are not well at all and in pain, and see how they're treated. And they go in to meet the pharmacist, and how medical marijuana is used to alleviate pain. So we're also learning, and they say Rolling Stone gathers no moss. I gather a lot, actually. I'm probably a moss heap. Every project we take, we learn something new. And
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we all challenge each other all the time in the studio. And of course, our clients are very challenging. But my God, look at Neil. No.
Now, you mentioned to me that part of what you were doing, and I think it's COVID related, maybe not, is that you are now giving something away every day. Can you tell us about that?
Well, it's just that I think one should give something away every day. So always find something to give away. So whether I'm giving stuff for our charity bus sale for the Thorntree that we support in Africa or in northern Kenya, or whether it's the housekeeper coming in that goes away with something nice. I think I want to have the flow through system all the time. Nothing should stagnate in my body or in my giving or my work, that it should always flow. We don't want stagnation, and giving releases a certain kind of beneficial energy. It's better for the giver than the givee, actually, sometimes.
Let me know when you're giving away the African bracelets. Is there like a line or something you can sign up for? Or?
Yeah. You can just call me and the bracelets will be yours. I can't. When I go to a trade show, I have bracelets on my wrist. Normally I come back at the end of the trade show with no bracelets on my wrist.
With no bracelets, yeah.
So
to tell us about your philanthropy and how you started the Thorntree project.
Well, a friend of mine was traveling, delivering a Jeep up in through northern Kenya with a pair of guys, and she'd retired, Jane Newman, and the Jeep broke down in the Samburu Desert, and out of the bush came these women and children in these beautiful robes and this, that, and the other, and the chief took her in for the night while the guys worked with some of the warriors to see if they could fix the Jeep. And Jane said this. She's never met more generous people. She said they had nothing and they just gave everything. If there was a leaf in the hut, they would cut down 5 people in the hut. They cut the leaf into 5 pieces. So she came back, and I was, it's 20 years ago nearly now. Ellen's on the board, by the way. She came back and she told me about it. And she said, I'd love you to help me to start to give education to the children, because the chief said, she said to the chief when she was leaving, what can I do to thank you for your generosity? And he said, educate our children. So we now have about 1,700 or something like that, and graduates and so on. I can't say no to my friends. So if you ask me for something, you will probably get it. Very so good. I did a bring and buy sale immediately, raised enough first for a preschool, and I was up and running.
And what is it that you do, and how do people get involved?
Well, if you go to Thorntree.org.
We will send the link when we send the follow-up. Okay.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and that's it. And it's very easy and very simple, and a tiny amount means an awful lot in Kenya, in the Samburu Desert. These people have nothing. And
have you been back since?
I haven't been back since 2012, actually. We're talking about me going out in the fall to meet some of the new graduates and so on, because it's very heartwarming. We have an environmentalist, we've got doctor, we've got nurse. you know, and these people had no education. The parents are totally illiterate. Only the chief and a couple of people were actually able to read and write. So it's been, I totally believe in education. I've got a major education plan, actually, which I will not reveal now because it's too complex, but worldwide education plan. And I you know, disaster relief is great and it's very important. But the most important thing, I think, is to build a foundation of education where people can learn what to do and what not to do, and to stop killing each other, maybe for once.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
We're all
Yes.
people. Hold hands.
Ignorance being the cause of so much that's wrong.
Ignorance and prejudice. It's really ghastly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, you started your career flat on your back, but as a fashion designer, great success. An interior designer, architect, landscape, you name it, everything with the space around us, and photography too. Can you tell us a little bit now about what you are doing also in photography?
Well, what happened is my husband at the time, Daniel Aubrey, was actually a photographer, travel photographer, and working for people like Travel and Leisure and so on and so forth. And every now and again, I would say, would you take a shot of this? Would you take a shot of that? And he'd sort of wave me away. No, I'm looking at something else. And we went to Tibet in 2007. And I just took a giant leap, and I bought a really good camera. And I photographed around Tibet, and I loved it. I was hooked. And I was offered an exhibition, 2000, was it, Ellen, 2019? Time's like an accordion now. You don't even know what year you're in. And I had an exhibition. I was actually going down doing my art consulting in a gallery, and I said, oh, I take photographs too. And the woman said, Cheryl Hazan, she said, show me what you do. And I did. And she said, I'll give you a show. So it's all very haphazard. And the thing is this, that I've never had a college degree or anything like that. I just suck it all in and try to give it all back out, make people happy.
So no formal art training at all?
No formal anything training. Left school when I was 16, started my business when I was 17. If you want to know, I was so ignorant. The bank manager called me, I opened a bank account. He said, Clodagh, I'd like to see your books. So I brought down a couple of books I was reading, and I said, Mr. Mooney, why do you want to see what I'm reading? No.
Classic.
Oh, really?
Clodagh, how many people work in your design studio? How many people work with you now doing these projects all over the world? I'm just curious.
Well, we range between 18 and 25. And what we've done is we've assembled a team of the absolute best consultants that we can find. So the team expands with the consultants. So it's we work very intensely. It's a team of 6 minimum on the larger projects, and then there's mini projects, and we're learning the whole time. We'll probably go back to more staff now, actually, because work is flowing in, and we're very busy.
And what happened to you and to your business last year? What was the impact, and what did you do with that, with what was going on?
Well, strangely enough, we've had the best year that we've had for a very long time, because what's happened is that people are now aware that well-being is important, wellness is important, and health is important. So I've become like kind of the cloud du jour or something, you know. I mean, I called up and say, can you do something like this for us? I mean, even if it's not a wellness project in itself, like a spa, you know, it's even if it's a personal home. A couple of billionaires who were listening to me finally, and putting in infrared saunas and exercise and all those things, but in a good way, you know, not just to sweat it out and ache kind of school of wellness. No.
You know,
So,
we're finding the same thing, that, you know, the world has sort of turned their attention to wellness and the need and prevention, and people have, you know, woke up to this, alas, you know, because of COVID, but it has had a silver lining for people in the industry and for, you know, people who create these kinds of spaces like you do, So, you know, it's been an incredible time. And so you're busier than ever?
We're busier than ever, and we're setting up, you know, we've got a couple of people, you know, planted here and there. You know, as I say, it's not just the core group, but we're working with architects and so on, and architects who actually have hauled us in, which is very nice too. Kind of it's all interconnected. Yeah, it's been the best year ever.
And have you been traveling again? Because I know a lot of your work, you had to travel to sites that had to have stopped for a while.
No, the travels, I've only actually been on a plane twice in the last, what, 3 weeks. And it's, I'm going to Argentina. I think we're working in Argentina on a hotel in Bariloche. We're maybe going down there soon. But so now we're starting to travel again. Everybody in the studio pretty well is vaccinated and okay. It's really been very interesting, because from a design point of view and an energy point of view, if you get very good energy when a design team is actually seated around a table, because the energy is tangible, and that's been kind of difficult to replicate. But actually, being on a screen is a very, very good place for analysis and editing, because your total focus is on the screen. So if the drawing's on the screen, you're moving things around much more fluently in a sense than if the whole team's around the table. So the dichotomy between the energy of creation and the energy of editing and criticizing. I hate the word criticizing, editing, curating.
It is true that this is, it in a way, it's an intimate kind of experience, because you see people close up, you see work close up. I agree with you though, creative energy in a room is a little bit hard to replicate.
It's difficult. I mean, you take up a pencil in your hand and you do something, or you go and write on the write-on board, and you know, and everybody's laughing or criticizing or saying that's great, you know. So,
Clodagh, do you think about your legacy?
I do think about my legacy. Yeah, of course.
And what do you think about it? What does that make you think about?
I would like it in a sense, having spent quite a long life, and having children and grandchildren, and even now a great grandchild in Australia. I think if that energy can be bundled and be replicated rather than just you know, go into a pile of ashes, that would be nice. So if we believe in mentoring. We constantly have great interns. It's when I talk about the team, I'm not counting the interns, and people leave us and come back because they like our point of view. And I think that's in a sense the legacy you can give if you're in the design business. And also we don't design. I hate the word trend. The only word I ever use is movement. This is a movement. It's not a trend, you know. So I go back on work I've done 20 years ago, and I see the client still living there and enjoying it, and it doesn't look dated. I mean, there's a couple of pieces now and then that I mightn't use now that I used then, but it's your legacy is also that it doesn't go into a yard sale, you know. the yard sale of legacies, right? That would be a nice yard sale.
You know, some people have asked, including Valeria Giannaccani, and I hope I'm saying that right. If you want to get into the kind of work you're doing, with the kind of sensibility and respect for nature and sustainability and for humanity, what would you recommend? What is a path you would recommend someone take now?
Well, I think that I always say, for instance, when we have our interns, is that just don't come to intern in library work or something like that. Be part of everything. So, and go and intern for free, you know. I think you now have to pay something legal, and we do, but you learn so much if you do dry sponge, wet sponge, but in somebody's studio. So you pick out the person you most admire to work for, and then you go and knock on their door, and that's the way you start.
And so you're going to get a lot of people knocking on your door. That's okay, right?
No, at the moment would be great.
Tell us what you are most proud of in your life.
I don't really use the word proud. And it's for me, I'm moving through life, and some things are up and some things are down a little. And you lose a friend or something and they die, and then it's a little down, but I don't use the word proud. Somebody once asked me what my favorite project was, and I said, it's like asking me, who's my favorite child? Don't ask me that.
Right.
Because I really don't have one,
What is a day like for you now? What do you do? What wellness, activities do you engage in? What's your life look like these days?
Well, it's a busy life. I work 10, 11-hour day very often. But starting with my refrigerator, I have a system because I like to cook. And I have somebody come in and prep vegetables and stuff like that, so that I love to cook, so that I can stop what I'm doing, go down and whisk together a lunch or a dinner very easily. Everything in glass jars, of course, no plastic. So that's one thing I truly recommend. I've been doing this for the last 25 years, I think.
And you are vegan, is that right, Clodagh?
I've been vegan for 26 years now, vegetarian for 40 something. And so there's lots of vegetables in my life and lots of prepping in my life. And I walk. I like what the French call, the word is a flaneur. If you go out with absolutely nothing in mind, not even a direction, you go out and wander, and then you see things you mightn't have seen if you went out with the direction, and a focus. Unfocused walking is very interesting for me.
Is there anything that you would like to do in your life that you're not doing? I mean, do you aspire still to do other things?
Well, I was thinking the other day about painting. No.
Wow.
But I do have a book. I've started to write another book. So that would be, and you talk about legacy, that would be a very personal book.
And you spend time with grandchildren, yes? You have family nearby where you are in Beacon, is that right?
One house over. I have 2 granddaughters and my son, who actually works with me on licensing, and my daughter-in-law. And when I came in from Ireland last night, I got a call. Have you anything to eat? Can we bring you down dinner? At 8 o'clock, the dinner was on the table. Thank you very much. My kids are great cooks too, so it's wonderful. And we're a very united family. I come from the absolute opposite, a totally not united family. Nobody would talk to anybody. Everybody was frowning on everybody's doing. So I determined to make one giant hug of a family, and it's working.
How did you manage to make that turn? You must have realized early that is not what you wanted to recreate. I think we all end up either recreating or seeking to do the opposite of what we grow up with, depending on the circumstances. How did you do that?
I decided to make a 180-degree turn, really. I was sent off to boarding school. It was a chilly Anglo-Irish Protestant, I won't even go into it, family, and nobody ever hugged you. You might get a peck on the cheek, but it was, I thought that's not the way life is. And I remember going out, I was invited out by a friend in boarding school to their home, and they were kind of loving each other and sitting on the couch and a cuddle and so on and so forth. And I thought, that's for me. So that's the path I took.
Well, it's a pretty incredible thing to be able to do, to realize that, and then make that choice, and then make that a reality. I mean, I think everyone I've ever spoken to who knows you talks about warmth. And so you have really been able to turn that, which is really, that's an incredible accomplishment.
Thank you. There's another thing too. You talk about legacy. A lot of people's lives are destroyed by badly written wills and so on and so forth. So I'm working very hard to have actually everything itemized. So if my plane had come down yesterday, it would have been a decent document.
That's an incredible, I have to say, that's an incredible gift, to give to the people left behind. I had a very similar experience with my mother, who itemized everything, you know, while she was in hospice, and told me who got what and, you know, how to do it all. That was like it's an incredible gift to give people to do it. People are afraid to do that, but I'm really glad that you mentioned that.
Well, if having had quite a few near-death experiences, one way or the other, including the horse, you know, you realize that you're only here for a relatively short amount of time, and you'd better take care of the people after you and during your time on, you know, your time here. So it's
what is something that, you know, we will be sending around your full bio, which is unbelievable, with the follow-up email, but tell us something not on that bio. Tell us about yourself, something we wouldn't learn by reading about you.
I have no idea. just ask me a question. I'm totally transparent. I don't hedge. What would know about me? That I love music. I dance in the kitchen when I'm cooking.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I dance.
What do you dance to? What are you listening to?
It depends. I don't do rock and roll. I usually use Caribbean obuika, or maybe a little light classical, you know, Chopin or something like that. But I move when I like to move around the house.
I know that you don't look at things in terms of, you know, which is your favorite project or which is, like, you know, your favorite child or anything, but how have you dealt with any kind of failure or disappointment in your life, in your work or your
analysis, learning process, you know, if we for some reason are taken off a job, which has happened, I thank goodness, maybe twice or three times, is what did we do wrong? And that's, I just don't believe in going away and grumping about it, you know.
So you look at it and you talk about it and you analyze it and you try to figure out what it is.
Yeah, the studio is very analytical. You know, it's, I don't think people have enough dialogue. Susan Sontag said that sight is the most promiscuous of all the senses. So the people are always talking about, oh, the design and how it will look and this, that, and the other. And somebody once said to me, you know, it's so nice when you meet somebody and they ask you how you feel. Not that, don't say, oh, you're looking good or you're looking tired or something like that. How do you feel? So.
And how do you endow the spaces that you create with so much feeling? What is it? How do you know, is there some way that you approach things that you're able to do that? I mean, you're so known for that. There must be some way that you do it. Some secret sauce.
I think you need to jump back into my toolbox, because yes, exactly. Because I omitted to say working with the best feng shui masters, working with biogeometry, working with different kinds of therapists, and that is really a good thing in the toolbox. And also, we ask our private clients what illnesses they have in their family, what their horoscope sign is. I was 22 people yesterday, and we have a note of the horoscope sign of everybody at that meeting. So you know, you're taking and you're massaging all these energy and egos and inspirations, and it does make a lot of energy in the room, good energy. And we try to ground, because people are tend to be either cyber or in the air right now. So we try to create grounding spaces. When I would prefer, somebody said, for instance, when they went into opened the bedroom door in a hotel, that they said, rather than wow. You know,
right. You want people to feel something rather than just experience it with the sense of sight.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We have so many senses. I mean, it's we have the thing in the studio also when we're looking at fabrics. How does that feel? Shut your eyes. Don't be looking at it. Shut your eyes. Feel it. You know. No, it makes a big difference. And also, I think one of the things we do is because I've traveled so much, we bring in a lot of international influences, and in patterns and so on and so forth. So we try to make, for instance, in public spaces like hotels, that that many creeds and beliefs and so on are represented in some quiet way.
You have published a number of books, beautiful books of your work. What are you reading? What do you read? And what inspires you?
Oh, actually, what inspires me, unfortunately, is everything. So so my head often whirls. No. I read a lot of books about healing, and I love Pico Iyer, you know, The Art of Stillness. At this moment, to try to quiet my own mind. It's hard sometimes for your hands to keep up with your mind, isn't it? You're made to write down everything you're thinking and export. My son once said to me, you know, Clodagh, my sons don't call me mom. Everybody calls me Clodagh. That was the house rule. And he said to me, you should export every talent you have before you die. Every talent. Look at all your talents, at everything you have inside you. Don't keep it lurking in the back room. You export every talent you have before you die. And it was a very wise saying from a very young guy. He was about 18, I think, that he said that.
And so how do you do that?
Well, as I said, it's instead of bite off more than you can chew, you know, take up the photography and suddenly realize you're not only you're homeschooling in IT, but you're also learning how to use a camera and even how to edit. Just our Nike, what is it? Just do it.
Yes, Nike. Yes.
You don't have to commit to it. I mean, you don't have to commit yourself to a man or a woman. You just have to commit yourself or to some new trade or something like that. Just take it up and try it. You know, for instance, in real estate, if you're buying a house, it's a very good idea to do an Airbnb in the neighborhood and see what it's like before you.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Checks. It's what we always recommend if somebody's doing something. Are you sure where you're going? You know, you be aware of your surroundings. No, no. It's a full manifest here. Right?
Yeah. Really, there's a lot of I keep looking over periodically at the chat, which is very active, and I think they're you know, people want a fan club or some kind of club where they can get a Clodagh club, so everybody can kind of have access to you and your vision and the way that you do the things that you do, and continue to be, you know, kind of part of the conversation with you, which is a great idea. Do you have a fan club? If not, you will after this.
Well, that's a very nice thing to have. You know?
Okay.
That son, by the way, created my nickname in the family.
What is?
This is very personal. My son, the one who said to export everything, he created a nickname for me. I'm not sure I want to give it to you though.
Come on, this is supposed to be very personal.
Okay, the Energizer Bunny.
The Energizer Bunny. Okay, that's great. You probably have more energy than your children and grandchildren put together. That's what I'm guessing.
Well, I always assume I can do it, you know. So, and off that belief, off that trampoline is where I jump off.
Do you binge watch anything on Netflix?
I don't really. I don't really know.
Don't watch any of those design shows and no. Maybe you should have one. No.
That would be a fun thing to have, actually. That would be a fun thing to have. I do I find it intensely stimulating. I sell my services on Charity Buzz for consultations.
Nice.
Going to somebody's home or whatever it is, office, or whatever it is, for a 2-hour consultation. I mean, talk about going into overdrive. You know, that's very stimulating, very exciting thing to do.
Well, I'm going to tap you for our annual auction to support our research and ask you to do a consultation, and we'll auction you off at our next summit, if that's okay. Where I hope you agree.
I'll give you a photo too, you know?
Okay.
I really believe in what you guys are doing. It's absolutely fantastic. They talk about international awareness. Yeah, brava, bravissima, bravissimo, everybody.
Thank you. Well, we have Susie to thank for that leadership, and we're all really, really privileged to be in that sandbox. That is for sure. I'm going to, in the last couple of minutes, I'm going to do a lightning round with you, Clodagh, made famous by James Lipton on Inside the Actors Studio. Okay, adapted a little bit for the wellness world and for you. So these are lightning round, quick questions, quick answers. You ready?
For me?
For you. Ready?
Oh my God.
No. What is your favorite wellness word?
My favorite wellness word? Introspection.
What wellness treatment turns you on?
What wellness treatment turns me on? Being alone to go through a wellness circuit, wellness water circuit.
A water circuit. Okay, wonderful. What is your favorite color?
That's a silly question, Nancy. I'm Irish. Green. but also my closet, black, is 50 shades of black.
We have the same closet. What is your favorite sound?
My favorite sound?
Sound.
Laughter.
Pardon?
Laughter.
Laughter. Wonderful. What is your superpower?
My superpower? I don't even know what that means. You have to explain.
What is something about you that is special and propels you to be who you are?
Well, then we're going to get a bit spiritual here, but guides.
Guides. Okay. Wonderful. What would you do if you didn't do what you do?
What would I do if I didn't do what I do? I think I would be very interested in being a travel writer and exploring other countries and delivering. It would be such a wonderful thing to do, to actually travel around, and I'm planning to go to different countries and write about them and deliver that experience.
You would be incredible at that, I just want to say. And last question, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I'll quote you what the ancient Egyptian quote that I use so much is that the ancient Egyptians believed when you arrived at the pearly gate that you could not enter paradise unless you answered in the positive and the affirmative to two questions. Did you bring joy? Did you bring joy? Did you find joy? Then the gate would open if you said yes to both.
Clodagh, it is exactly 11 o'clock. You are positively wonderful, and I cannot thank you enough for this wonderful call. Please, everybody unmute and let's give Clodagh some global love.
Ooh, thank you so much.
Wonderful, Clodagh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clodagh.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clodagh. It was amazing.
That was awesome.
So energized, everybody.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
Thank
The
you.
best.
That's
Thank
very
you.
good.
You guys,
So
bye-bye.
cool.
That was
Thank you, everybody.
so much.